The harder you work for something, the greater you will feel when you achieve it. On that note, I, Dr. Nitish Srivastav, Associate Professor, IIEBM, welcome you all to one more interesting session of the IIEBM's induction program of 21st Batch Ignite 2020. The session will be of an hour, where first 40 minutes will be knowledge sharing and rest 20 minutes will be question and answer. You can type your questions in the chat box during the session. Our today's speaker will give his insight on experience during the lockdown. So let me introduce Mr. Abhijit Parlikar. Sir has completed his Executive General Management program from IIM Bangalore post completion of Masters in Labour Laws and Labour Welfare from University of Pune. He is a passionate leader and synergist with 20 plus years of diverse experience in organizational growth, culture building, and change management, wherein initially 7 years he extensively worked on labor relations, safety and environment compliances with organizations like Trinder India, Eaton Hydraulics, Suzlon Generators, and presently he is working with John Deere India Private Limited, where he is responsible for leading HR, IR, and admin functions. As HR leader, he contributed, advised, and supported business leaders, functional heads, critical stakeholders, and external partners for organizations' success. He succeeded in delivering major business outcomes by helping employees to embrace organizational culture, implementing best in class HR practices, and developing talent pipeline in a diverse technology, manufacturing, and service organization. He developed an holistic view of business by improving the length and breadth of his experience by successfully leading a business assignment in the manufacturing services space by continuously adapting new ideas, challenging the status quo, and offering fresh ideas. Well, this is not all. Sir has a very strong liking for mentoring and coaching employees, students, and career aspirants going through career transitions to bring in the best that they have in them. He is also a percussionist and accompanied on the tabla with renowned artists pursuing Indian classical music in all forms, which includes vocal, kathak, dance, instrumental, and light music. He is doing a philanthropic work in the field of education, mentoring, management students, girl child education, etc. And also, he pursues cycling and badminton as hobby sports for keeping himself fit. So, without taking much time, let us start this session. And like the IIEBM, we say, let knowledge prevail. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for that very elaborate and lengthy introduction, I would say. Um, First of all, I would like to thank the management of IIEBM, especially Dr. Poonam and her staff, for giving me this opportunity today. I consider it as my privilege to talk to students, and I really love mentoring students who are pursuing their way towards the management education. Um, what I have chosen today is a very unique topic, and as you might have heard multiple speakers talking on this particular subject, but I thought without really bothering you with much of the content, I would just talk about my own experiences that have transpired during the lockdown period, and how as an organization we responded, and how as students you need to respond to this particular situation, considering this as one of the most important I would say opportunities available to all of you. So um let's see how this goes. Um
Sir, I think you need to upload the presentation again.
Again, okay,
Yeah.
that should not be a problem. So the idea was just to make sure that I discuss with you, and I think the success of this particular um, presentation will depend upon how many questions do you ask me, and how do you really um, take advantage of this particular session today. So I will await your questions as we go along with my presentation. So first of all, as the presentation is getting uploaded, uh, how this idea came around and how this entire thing came through. A lot of colleges and a lot of educational institutions came back to me saying that a lot of students are feeling the pressure of the overall lockdown because currently the number of I would say the internship opportunities are very less. And how can we make sure that even during this particular lockdown, the students are engaged and they are making their strides in this kind of a situation as well. So that's where this entire idea came around, and I hope you will like it. If somebody can um, confirm that they can still hear me, because I'm not hearing any echo
Yes,
at
sir.
all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So what's in store for today? What I'm going to talk about essentially is how do we really adjust to the new world, look around you, and what kind of change do you see today? Um, and then we'll talk about the new paradigm shift which is happening as we go along. There are a lot of numerous new areas which are emerging. And what do you mean by this whole concept of force entrepreneurship? And what does it mean for all of you as students? And the most important part is how can you not um, let the uncertainty paralyze all of you? And what you should do as students to make sure that you still utilize this very important opportunity for yourself. So, my first reaction when this entire lockdown and the COVID was declared as a national pandemic, uh, who knew it when we were talking about it, when we were hearing about it on 31st of December 2019? We didn't even imagine that this kind of a situation will hit us so fast, and this will change forever the way we live, the way we talk to each other, the way we socialize with each other, and then the entire thing changed 3 months later, and here are we in the new situation. So um, the first reaction which came to my mind was, is it a big ego slap by the nature on all of us? Um, why felt that was even the nature was telling me that it needs to breathe, and enough is enough, and you have taken whatever you needed from me, but you also need to give space to me. And this really takes me to the new level of thinking that we are very small, and we need to start living the way we are. We need to make sure that our needs are limited, and we should be able to uh, stay in whatever we have. And I think the nature was telling us, nature was trying to show us you can do it. And you see in last 3 or 4 months the way it has transpired, and the way we have lived our lives, just thinking about our own lives and nothing else, has shown us that we can stay in limited means, and we can stay in a very limited we can eat whatever is required. We can stay in a very limited area. We can take whatever is required from the nature only, and so on and so forth. um, so as a result of that, obviously all of you must have also experienced a new schedule, because all of you would have been used to go to the college on a day-to-day basis, meet people, meet your professors, meet your friends. but suddenly everything has changed. And obviously, as a result of that, there have been a lot of sectorial changes that we have seen in last 3 to 4 months, which is purely my own perspective, uh, which can definitely be challenged, and I would like to be challenged. But the idea is, let's look at it from a different perspective on what has changed in last 3 to 4 months. This is just an example of what I was talking about a couple of minutes back when we talk about nature slab. So this picture is taken somewhere in the very dense part of New Delhi uh, on the um, before the beginning of the lockdown, which was declared on 23rd of March. And exactly after a month's time, from 23rd March, somewhere around 22nd of April, this picture was taken. And you can see the drastic difference between these two pictures. Even though it's shooted in the same place, you can see the clear skies. You can see a lot of birds which are flying on the city. Um, Traffic is almost nil, and city suddenly looks very clean. Um, in fact, all the rivers that you would have seen would have been much more cleaner, and so on and so forth. So, what was nature trying to tell us is that we need to lead a conscious life. We need to lead it in a conscious way. We need to be in tune with the nature, and we need to consume whatever is required. Don't take whatever you don't need. And it was trying to tell us the logic and principle of diminishing marginal utility, which means, when diminishing marginal utility starts uh, when you first take let's say when you are hungry, when you eat the first chapati versus when you eat the fourth or fifth chapati, the marginal utility of that chapati decreases. And similarly, when you take nature for granted, it's like the diminishing marginal utility, and you take it for granted. And suddenly, one fine morning, you wake up with a lot of constraints in your life. So, so that was my first reaction. And then, before I came to the terms with the new normal, um, you know, I was started to thinking about new schedules. It gave me a huge opportunity to learn a lot of new things, because obviously, when I used to travel on a day-to-day basis, it takes almost 1.5 hours to 2 hours, or two and a half hours of good transit time, which got saved for me. And as a result of that, uh, you try to do some things which probably for a long time you wanted to do, and make sure that you pursue your hobbies again. And that's exactly why you see those pictures on my screen here. It gave me a lot of opportunity to reinvent my hobbies. Um I started improving on my efficiency, because there were very focused meetings which used to happen when we are at home. And there's a lot of renewal which happens in terms of emotional, physical, spiritual, and psychological as well, which gave a lot of space for me to think in a different direction and do something which you have never tried. This gave me a completely new renewable dimensions, and of course, a couple of new skills that I have learned over a period of time, which I'm sure all of you must have explored over a period of during this lockdown. Coming back to business, what has been my um, learning during this particular lockdown period is multiple sectors which I look at it, and I'm sure all of you would have been aspiring to go to different segments here, as you see on my screen. So if you see drugs and pharmaceuticals, when the initial lockdown was declared, there was a moderate impact. and the recovery, of course, was very short term. When I say short term, it's less than 6 months. So it recovered, and of course, as you know, today it's one of the most booming business, as people will need more drugs and pharmaceuticals, as the hospitals go full bear sack in terms of the number of patients increasing and so on and so forth. The livestock industry obviously has been severely hit because the perishability of the material, and because the transportation industry was also stopped. There was a severe impact, and of course, it was for a short term period. Retail, which is non food, again had a severe impact during the lockdown, but it was again very short term. Once everything started, it also started regaining. Wholesale, again, which is non-food, had a severe impact because of the goods movement, which was stopped across the country. Textile, on the other hand, had a moderate impact and which will remain for a shorter period of time. Logistics, on the other hand, had a very severe impact, and it's going to be medium-term impact before it completely revives. When I say medium-term, it's going to be at least 7 months to a year before it comes down to the normal terms. Metals again had a moderate impact, and it will be on the medium term. Automotive, all of you know that it has a very high impact, and it's going to be long term, which is going to take about more than a year to really recover and come back to normal speed. Entertainment industry, obviously, all of you have stopped going to the malls, including me. As a result of that, the entertainment industry has been severely impacted and it's going to be remaining long term. Banking has a very high impact, going to be remaining long term. Gems and jewelries, severe and long term. Tourism, of course, has been a severe and long term impact. Hospitality again has a severe and long term impact. Electronics, very high impact. It's going to be remaining long term. And then the medium and small scale industries had a high impact, which is going to remain long term. All of you must have read, there have been a lot of good things which is happening on the MSME front, and there's a lot of packages which is being declared by the government to support the MSME industries across. So you can look it up on Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in terms of the overall impact which has been created as a result of the lockdown and the overall corona business as a whole. Moving on, so what has changed? What has been the new paradigm shift? What has been the learning overall as a result of it? And what should we look forward to? So, what is going on well right now? And what is this overall term of forced entrepreneurship? Um, so let's dwell upon quickly a little bit around what's the shift. So let's go theme by theme. A couple of years back, survival was uh, depending upon someone who's really very smart. And my thinking is that the survival is now shifting from smart to quick and agile operating model. Um, what are the examples? IT has adapted is really very well, and slowly the manufacturing and other segments, including the MSMEs and including the retail industry, have started adapting to agile, where instead of waiting to deliver the complete product, it is getting delivered into parts, where the customer is also very happy in terms of the way he is receiving the services, and even someone who's actually delivering those services is also acting and going on to the next level of agile. Work style from smart offices has very quickly shifted to work from home, and you would have seen a lot of IT companies, including TCS, and in fact, some of our systems also. We've started looking at how can we transfer those or transform those things from smart offices to work from home. As a result of that, a lot of cost has been getting saved. Companies like Google have also given some incentives to the employees who have started working from home post the COVID situation. Internet usage from personal computing to streaming platforms, all of you have seen all the new streaming platform like Netflix or Amazon Prime or for that matter even Hotstar or those kind of things. So it has now transformed from personal computing to smart streaming platforms. Gymming to home workout, obviously all of the gyms have been closed down since the time lockdown was declared, and everybody have started adapting to the new normal by working out of home. um, Priorities, I want everything to back to basics where okay, I can do with little, and I'm very happy with that. Business model from manufacturing to sharing, household expenses from impulsive buying to 40 to 50% saving. And this is a quick survey which I did during the lockdown on different the n was equal to almost 100 people, where I asked them on their shopping methods for the past 3 months, and they are saying that the impulsive buying has drastically reduced, and in fact, they are saving 40 to 50% of their salary, which they were receiving, or the spendings that they were doing overall. Education from a full-fledged school to online platforms. All of you must have seen that. Your colleges also started doing that. Online platforms have become very imperative, and people have started utilizing it to a very great extent. Entertainment, again, from cinemas, malls to again the streaming platforms on social media and various other means which have started. So what's winning today is all the digital products. Gig economy examples are with you in terms of Uber or Airbnb. People think that the Uber is going to be impacted severely. However, they've come up with a very smart solution on, there is a secluded place which is created for the drivers so that there is no contact between them and the passenger. Paper usage has been on very high. Stock market investors are very agile in picking up these opportunities. Alternate medicines, what are the alternate medicines to allopathy, is going on booming. Spiritual science, and I was also surprised with this, astro, tarot, purpose of life, Sadhguru, all of these things you might have already seen how it is booming over a period of time. Home gardening, hydroponics has increased substantially. Online coaching and teaching, health and wellness, alternate energy, solar and wind, gaming, direct sales, IoT, data science, machine learning, insurance, healthcare. All of these are very booming segments. As a students, you should know you can do your own research on these areas where you can learn more around what's going on in these segments. So, my message to all of you is that don't let this uncertainty paralyze all of you. You'll have to do certain things which you have never done in your life. Think in terms of probabilities, not the binary outcomes, considering the full range of possibilities. Uh, what else can we do apart from this should be the question that you should be asking. I was going through a very interesting book on a French philosopher called Michael de Montaigne, and he had a very interesting line there. He says, "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, and most of it which never happened." So what he's trying to say is, whatever constraints and misfortunes or whatever you think terrible happening to you, maybe that is just in your mind right now. You will have to think differently to make sure that you come out of this situation. Um, Possibilities will always exist. Um, there was a very interesting saying which was done by Albert Einstein, and he used to always talk about this one thing, saying that doing the same thing again and again is insanity. So if you do the same thing again and again and expect different results to happen, that's not going to happen. That's not going to be a real possibility. So there is an exercise of freedom that all of you have. You have a freedom of choice, and it is key to finding way forward in uncertain time is a choice that you make. So all of you as students should make the right choices to ensure that you go forward in this particular uncertain times as well. So when I say freedom to choice, there is a stimulus and there is a freedom to choice, and you make a response out of it. So you have self-awareness, you have imaginations, you have conscience, you have independent will to think and take yourself forward in this particular situation as well. Use the best of it to make sure that you move forward, you leap forward in whatever avenues that you are choosing for yourself. Two things I just wanted to talk about here is around renewable dimensions and the blended learning. When you talk about these, I just want you to note down these two important websites, which is called as www.authentichappiness.com and www.mindtools.com. Now, these two are very important resources which can help you to leap forward in whatever avenues that you are choosing for yourself. In fact, authentic happiness can actually take you through multiple tests, which can tell you what is the current state of your mind, how happy are you, and how important it is for you to stay positive, and what can you do to do that. And mindtools.com will give you different tools for the theories that you are learning in the college, and you can use these tools which are extremely important for you, with be it strategic management, be it positive thinking, be it delegation, be it time management, and so on and so forth. So it will give you multiple layers of learning and tools which you can practically use to demonstrate yourself. So please do utilize these forums. What are renewal dimensions and blended learning? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are live now.
Okay. Social and emotional is basically on the empathy side, the service side, synergy side, your intrinsic security side, where you have a very strong urge to contribute something meaningful to the society as well. Spiritual is on your value clarification, uh, whether you really are bound by those values which you care for, and your commitment, your meditation, your study, all of these are your spiritual dimensions. And mental, on the reading, visualizing, planning, writing, all of these are your mental dimensions where you need to renew. So when you talk about renewal, you need to look at all these four dimensions, and when you move forward, look at it all from a holistic perspective. The last thing that I want to leave with you, and I'm expecting a lot of questions, because a lot of questions which are directed to me by the students are, in this particular situation, how can I really um, make sure that I still learn? And I think the most important part is, how does the learning happens? You need to make sure that. And 70% of your learning will happen from experiences, 20% will happen from others, and only 10% will happen from classroom. So when you talk about learning from experiences, there are multiple ways in which you can actually learn. So I was actually talking to one of the professors in Flame University, and this was the question that she asked me on: how do you really recommend the students be industry ready before they really take up any job? So my simple answer to that is, how can you improve this 70% is going to be the most important aspect of your learning, because the 10% that you learn will come from the classrooms that you're going to learn. Only 20% will come from learning from others, which can be like any mentors from the industry, or your coaches, or your professors, your guides, your mentors. Those are the 20%. And 70% of your learning will come from experiences. So when I say experiences, simple example can be, if I ask you, how many of you can really drive bicycle today? So obviously, I'm sure almost 90-95% of you can do that. But if I ask you, when did you learn to ride bicycle, you would always tell me that at least 10 years back or 15 years back. Why? Because at that point in time, you learn that on your own. You learn that from your own experience. When I say that, there was no Google book available to tell you, pedal in certain manner, or pedal in certain directions, or pedal in a particular angle, and then you will achieve the speed that you want to achieve, and so on and so forth. You actually did try yourself. You would have fallen down multiple times, but you still learned on yourself. You learned by yourself, and therefore that learning from your own experience has remained with you for a longer period of time. And this is what exactly you need to really capitalize on if you really want to be industry ready. So what are those experiences? Let's look at that. One is, of course, the project work. Like a critical problem definition, you can uh, your professors or your college can go back to the industry, asking them for critical problem solving, and just throw those problems to you and ask you to come up with the solutions. Second is researching on your own. I give you multiple subjects today. You can research on your own and come up with your own learnings on those particular subjects. Um, Teaching others can also be one of the learning experiences, where you have to first learn about the concepts before you start teaching others. Volunteering activities, this is one another way of learning from experiences, because when you do it physically, you will learn definitely from it much more than what you would have otherwise learned from class, or by just listening to others. Or internship, of course, is one of the areas, but if you can't go physically, you can do it virtually. And specific identified skills, for example, on specific areas like, let's say, data analytics, learning R programming or Python programming, and actually testing the real-time data in terms of the real-time scenarios. These are some of the examples of learning from your own experience. And the more you lean on towards the 70% side, there is much more possibility that you are going to be industry ready, from the perspective of uh, making sure that you are having bright chances of getting through a particular job that you are aspiring for. So all in all, yes, the new normal has posed a lot of challenges to all of us. And as students, the corporates are also struggling to find out what could be the best way of managing it. We are trying to go through it and make sure that we still try to learn on how can we come out of this situation as quickly as possible. Nobody can expect, how long will it take to come out of this situation. But all of us have responsibility to stay healthy, stay safe, and make sure that you still learn. your learning should not stop, and contribute your best, whatever is possible from your side, for your own success, for your institute success. I would like to really thank all of you again for giving me this wonderful opportunity today to connect with all of you. And I wish all the best. I would be very glad to answer any questions that you all will have.
So there are many questions. It was a wonderful session, sir. We thoroughly enjoyed.
Thank you.
So the first question is, do you think that once we will be out of this pandemic, then there should be some permanent changes specifically for environmental conservation from government?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. See, environment conservation laws or environment conservation regulations have always been there. Just that we chose not to follow them. Just that we chose whatever we wanted to do. And by way of this mandatory pandemic situation which has happened, this is going to be much more stringent, especially even on the corporate side. You will see the norms which were earlier given to a manufacturing industry has totally changed. It has become much more stringent, and as a result of that, a lot of industries are putting together their heads on putting the best equipments to make sure that their facility is zero discharge facility, whether it in forms of air pollution or water pollution.
Right.
Especially from a John Deere perspective, I am very proud to tell you that we are a zero discharge facility. We do not send any air pollution, or we do not even send one single drop of water outside whatever we use for our manufacturing facility. Everything is used for our own on consumption for gardening purpose, and almost 30 acres of our overall land that we have is completely green field, and we have more than 6,000 trees inside our premises. So every citizen, every corporate citizen, every individual citizen of this particular country has to be very, very, very uh,
That's right.
in a sustained manner, very, very, I would say, uh, uh, be available for this particular cause.
Hmm.
And it's a very sensitive area. We all should be very careful about this.
Right. Absolutely, sir. The next question is, do you think work from home is more effective way to work, and sectors like IT will have permanent shift in their working style now because they are very well able to adapt this work from home culture?
Well, yes, I would say a lot of companies are now thinking about it. I gave you examples of TCS or Google, and there are many more who are following that. In fact, most of the organizations have started evaluating work from home as their permanent solution. However, I don't think though that 100% of the work can be done from home.
Hmm.
There are issues relating to your infrastructure. There are issues relating to the data security. All of those needs to be first evaluated in the right manner
Hmm.
before we can say that 100% it is possible. However, I would say there will be a major shift in coming years
Hmm.
where employees will start working from home. And let me tell you, working from home is much more, that is going to push put a much more pressure on people, because uh, work from home, you will not get really an opportunity like you in the office. You will get that may not be possible when you are working from home. So there is a flip side to it as well. But
That's
yes,
right.
most of the organizations will start looking at that as an option.
Sir, so what about the manufacturing industry which cannot offer work from home, and they are suffering because of this pandemic? So what should be the new normal for them? How should they operate?
So first is creating a very, very good infrastructure which is going to take care of the health and hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
One, of course, very stringent norms of even entering the premises. There are very stringent norms.
Mm-hmm.
Temperature screening, hand wash, sanitization facilities needs to be created by everyone, which we have done already. And I think wherever it is possible for them to work from home, they've started doing that. However, which are direct production facing jobs, that obviously cannot be outsourced unless and until there is a huge amount of efforts which is put in for robotic automation, uh, which to an extent is very expensive as well.
Right.
And in countries like India, it is not advisable where we are labor intensive kind of a market.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we'll have to get together and think about the new normal. Spread. There are a lot of organizations who are spreading their shifts into 3 shifts so that social distancing can be maintained appropriately.
Right. Right. Sir, so these are PGDM students. So the question that I have now received is, since majority of sales and marketing involved traveling, which will not happen now, right? So what do you think will be the changed role of marketing apart from digital marketing roles that you have mentioned?
Yeah. So very interestingly, our sales executives have started interacting a lot with our dealerships,
Okay.
and now dealerships will have much more responsibilities to have direct interactions with the customers,
Right.
and digital media to a very great extent, because most of our marketing is getting transferred into various apps. For example, my marketing my marketing executive can actually interact with you virtually and show you all the products virtually
Hmm.
by using multiple apps that we have created,
Hmm.
and an experience where the customers can actually see the products
Hmm.
online, know all the specifications of that product online, and if they really want to have a touch and feel, they can actually visit the dealership. So it's both models actually,
Okay.
digital and direct sales as well.
Okay, okay. Sir, so on similar grounds, do you see change in roles of finance and HR trainees, management trainees as well?
Well, finance, again, these people can definitely work from home. However, there are meetings which are urgent and essential where they need to physically be present on certain areas.
Hmm.
HR, on the other hand, has much more responsibility, which has broadened now because
Hmm.
uh, one, keeping in touch with the employees, making sure that we still have that one-to-one emotional connect with the employees, not
Hmm.
only with them but reassuring their family members also that the organization is doing all the right things to ensure that we are doing all the right things to take care of people, to
Hmm.
take care of their health and hygiene, and be there for the employees. I think that role has increased multifold because
Yes.
people would need both physical and emotional support when these kind of pandemics are there.
Right.
And to a very great extent, we have demystified our beliefs on whether we can really work from home when you are working from manufacturing. So we did a very interesting analysis
Mm-hmm.
that around 50 to 60% of the work that we do can be done from home, and only 30 to 40% of the work requires physical presence.
Okay, okay. Sir, so are there any new kind of HR policies that you have worked on which has facilitated the employees during this pandemic apart from work from home?
Yeah, so work from home, of course, was the first one, and the other one, which has transpired us to get into something new, is
Hmm.
of course on the IT side. infrastructure side in terms of what kind of infrastructure do we need to give to the employees if they have to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Second important aspect is on the hospitalization and benefit side,
Okay.
where the first thing first that we have done is covered COVID as one of the pandemic which needs to be covered under the insurance policies,
Great.
and offering employees benefits where they can pay for those benefits to have additional cover to have this pandemic covered. That was another one.
Hmm.
Third is how do we change our leave policies to adjust? For example, if somebody is suffering from COVID,
Okay.
at least that portion of his leave can be sponsored by the company, or
Okay.
someone who is a primary contact of a COVID person can be who has to be home quarantined
Mm-hmm.
because he is at risk. Those kind of leaves also um, came into the purview of this particular policy.
Hmm.
The other important aspect is changing the way we create the infrastructure to support COVID activities. So, for example, social distancing. So,
Okay.
in our cafeterias, for example, we've created acrylic partitions, for example,
Okay.
where there is no connect with the employees who are sitting next to each other, right? So, when they come, they just have their lunch or dinner in that particular confined space, so
Okay.
that there is no touch or there is no spillage where it can suppose it can subject them to any kind of touch or feel.
Okay.
In fact, in our buses also we have had partitions, which so all of these things they are evolving over a period of time.
Hmm. That's wonderful. Okay, so the next question is, what are the influential factors that can move world businesses towards practicing environment sustainability?
So from the perspective what an organization does specifically, so there can be two parts to it. One is how can I personally contribute towards the environment sustainability? That's one area. The other is what corporates are doing. So obviously, as I told you earlier, also a lot of stricter norms in terms of environmental regulations which we are following.
Hmm.
The most important aspect is what are you doing to reclaim the carbon credits and how are you using natural sources of energy? For
Right.
example, wind energy or thermal energy, or for that matter, even the energy which is coming from sunlight.
Hmm.
How are we utilizing those sources,
Hmm.
and how are we converting our overall requirements, and what percentage of these are coming from the natural energy sources?
Right.
Plus, number of trees are we claiming the carbon credits for it, for example. So
Hmm.
let's say, as I said, there are 6,000 trees in our premises. So how much of our oxygen are we generating?
Hmm.
And are we then creating that equivalent oxygen of the products that we are manufacturing, and whether we are creating equal carbon credits is something that we need to look at.
Hmm. Right. So, in your session, you mentioned about renewal dimensions.
Yeah.
So, what are the things that students should work on to, reach those renewal dimensions?
So most of the, very interestingly, one of my very senior colleague is a clinical psychologist, and unfortunately, for the past 6, 7 months, 8 months, what I've been talking to her,
Hmm.
very basic issues of teenagers and the college-going students. One is depression. I don't know what really bothers them. um,
That's
but
right.
then I talked about four important dimensions, which is all encompassing. If you see, one is physical, spiritual, emotional, mental.
Right.
All of those dimensions needs to be taken care. Why can't these students have 10 minutes of, let's say, dhyan every day, or whatever spiritual that you that you really believe in, irrespective of whatever religion that you belong to. Take
Hmm.
out some time to make sure that you have peace with yourself. First of all,
Hmm.
how can you reduce the screen time, for example?
Hmm.
I'm not talking about the study, but I'm talking about the overall screen time or
Hmm.
the social network time or overall time that we spend on our mobiles.
Hmm.
That is creating a huge issue. Something like, if I'm not, let's say, on Instagram, if I'm not responding or if I'm not creating story, I'm as good as a dead person. So
Hmm.
all of those things needs to come out as a taboo. I mean, that should not be a taboo.
Hmm.
You need to think about all those renewable dimensions. When you talk about physical, you need to be physically very fit, mentally very fit.
Hmm.
Spiritually, you need to be having peace with yourself. Whatever you believe in,
Hmm.
whether you believe in going to a very quiet place near a small tree and sit there for 10 minutes is also a spiritual dimension.
Hmm.
Having mental peace, and that's why, if you see, I've given that www.authentichappiness.com. If you
Right.
go through that website,
Hmm.
it can actually tell you your state of mind,
Okay.
and you will be very surprised to see that website how true it is. And
Hmm.
it gives you multiple tests in terms of understanding your own mental state.
Okay.
So please utilize that more.
Right. So, did you ever encountered failure in your life? If yes, then how did you dealt with it?
Multiple times, and I think um, today's generation needs to really learn how to accept failures rather than just be celebrating about your successes.
Hmm.
So multiple times I have failed. Two times I appeared for NDA exams, failed miserably.
Hmm.
Multiple times I wanted to uh, make sure that I need to be physically fit, and miserably failed. And then uh, it struck me that when you have to be physically fit, you don't have to really go to gym every day. Simple things like playing badminton or going on a cycling for a 20-25 kilometers is also a good fit for yourself. So what you need to do is, you need to choose your own fit, and it doesn't have to be the same every day. You can go for a jog one day, the second day you go for a badminton, third day you go for a cycling, fourth day you go for a swimming. Can also make you fit. The two things that I always tell my colleagues, friends, and students, that you need to have at least one hobby which is related to music, and you need to at least have one hobby which is related to sports, which is of course the outdoor sports,
Right.
which is going to really because see, when you do that, so when you, for example, when I'm playing badminton, it's my me time. I'm not thinking about anything else during that time, right?
Right. Right.
So you need to find what is the best thing for yourself. Nobody's going to tell you that this is the best thing for you. You need to find out what is the best thing for you, and you need to follow it, and that is your me time. So make sure that you at least have half an hour of me time every day, because you're thinking about your studies, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your girlfriends, you're thinking about your boyfriends. You have to have time for yourself, where there is a space for yourself where you call it as a me time, and that time you need to spend for yourself.
Hmm. Very well said, sir. One last question. What is your daily ritual towards stress management and your closing statement to the students?
So first of all, I never slept beyond 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, unless I was ill. um, and typically I would wake up early, and the first thing first is, and that has been a ritual, that I drink a lot of warm water every day,
Okay.
and that has been my ritual. And before going to the office, I make sure that at least 10 minutes I take out for praying.
Okay.
And when I come back in the evening from my office, I make sure that I at least take half an hour for myself. It can be a jog, it can be a walk, whatever. So that
Right.
has been my routine for ages, and I would definitely ask the students. Uh, I would not expect everyone to. Of course, I want them to enjoy their life, but at the same point in time, there are certain things which you need to follow as routine, and talk about renewal dimensions to yourself, your parents, your teachers. They will definitely have some good advice for all of you, and I wish you all the best. And you can reach out to me. My email addresses and phone numbers are there with your professors. If you need any help, please bother me anytime.
Thank you so much, sir. It was wonderful session. I'm sure every student will now visit happiness.com, and I hope that the way you have seen lockdown, each one of us also see and stay positive. On that note, thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great
you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.